All right, Robert. So let's go back and let's pull this thing together. We talked about various traditions, historical background, including Lincoln in this modern world. So let's pull this thing together. How, as human beings in this larger world, can we conduct ourselves better than we are doing it today by drawing from some of these traditions? You know, we are little guys, and you are a professor, very learned person. Explain to us, how can we better ourselves by following these various traditions?
I'll try. So here's the way I think about it. Each of the religions, like philosophies, like worldviews, like teachings about human beings and how we behave, like the Analects of Confucius, Shunzi, Lao Tzu, whatever, they are all trying to make a relationship between their most immediate local time and space-bound situation and something beyond. Mm-hmm. Some people go a little bit past to a family, a little bit past to a community, a little bit past to a culture or a civilization or a period of time or a gender commitment or a class commitment. And some people include not only all those things, but something really beyond and deep, something that we would call sacred or divine. This is very hard to do. And many people who try to do it don't do it well, or they do it well for a while, then they lose it, or they do it well and that's supposed to help us, but it may be not what we're looking for at a certain time. So there's lots of missing as well as hitting. The contact, the source, or the goal. Now, some traditions emphasize prayer, some meditation, some sacrifice, some deeds. These are all valuable for different people, different times, different circumstances. Could be all valuable for any one person in the course of a day in different circumstances. It's very difficult to do this in a way that's completely successful. Mm-hmm. So we lose our way, we get angry, we get jealous, we fight, we get despondent. We need help. When that happens, some people turn to each other. Some people turn to an interior, deep self. Some people turn to some kind of idea of a divine being. And one hopes that there really is a divine being that corresponds to those ideas. We don't know for sure.
But is that an imaginary crutch, maybe?
Well, certainly Freud thought it was infantile projection, and a lot of people agree with that. There are lots of books recently talking about how we don't need God, it's a silly idea. Mm-hmm. But a lot of very intelligent people say, no, I know my own experience. I've been watching this very closely for my whole lifetime, and I really know what I'm talking about, every bit as much as this person who thinks it's very often a he rather than a she, thinks that they understand my experience better than I do. They think it's projection, but I know it's a real experience. Okay, so all of these are attempts to link something local with something vast and presumably helpful, saving, positive, a source of grace. Some seem to me more successful than others, some more inspiring than others. Mm-hmm. Maybe some are too inspiring or too lofty, and if I try that, I'm going to fail. So I better should try something easier. We have to know the self. So I think we're maturing in the sense that we're coming to know these many different paths and what they can enable us to do, and which ones are helpful in which respects. I also think that in addition to drawing from these different traditions, like pulling low-hanging fruit, we might want to pay attention to keeping or finding our proper, we could even say karmically proper spiritual home. Mm-hmm. What is the tradition where the gods of my karma live? Mm-hmm. Jesus or Christ or Jesus' mother or these great saints are within that Christian tradition and presumably are helpful. And Krishna is helpful for people who can quote the slokas and look around and be inspired by a Gandhi or a Sri Aurobindo or a Chaitanya or a Buddha, etc. So we're all struggling. And some people are not struggling hard enough. Some people are struggling very hard. And the ones, I think, who struggle very hard to contact the divine and bring something into life are rewarded in different ways, and sometimes mysterious ways and indirect ways. But I think it's an inherently rewarding endeavor. And the people who say, I'm not interested, I'd rather get money, sex, and power, they're rewarded in those three respects. But there may be something really, really deep and profound that they're missing out on. At least I think that's the case. I think it's Prasad should go next.
Prasad, we want to hear your persuasive argument about the traditions that you believe in. This is not intended to denigrate anybody else, but simply project your views that are so forceful and maybe quite interesting to hear.
Thank you, Kal. I agree with the wonderful insights and particularly your remarks that you just made about the rewards of those who hanker after money, sex, and power. Probably get that, and so I would put rewards with air quotes. Just some thoughts, and hopefully I won't ramble too much. You mentioned earlier, Robert, that you're not clear as to why Krishna went with Arjuna rather than his evil cousin Duryodhana. It's not actually Krishna going with Arjuna. The whole story of how things unfold in Mahabharata were actually the die was cast right in the beginning. There's a little background story. The background story is that Krishna is supposed to be taking an afternoon nap or something, and these people are all set to go into battle. And he said, well, if all else fails, and in fact you do, end up fighting his cousin to both, and he said, I will help, but he himself will not fight. If he helps one side, then the other side will have his own army, and he's supposed to have an army of 100,000 people. So they both are waiting, Duryodhana and Arjuna, for Krishna to get up from his nap. And Duryodhana chooses readily, since the 100,000 strong army. And so he thought that is power, so I got a huge edge, so I'm going to defeat Arjuna. His army is very small, so I got a huge boost. I'll wipe him out. Whereas Arjuna chooses Krishna, knowing that he's not just a cousin, that he in fact is divinity. So in choosing Krishna, he chose dharma, whereas Duryodhana was trying to go for the outcome. So he was interested in outcome. So dharma versus outcomes, which is what the whole teaching of one of the principal teachings of the Gita is. We talked about not being attached to the outcome. So he chose dharma, and the guy chose power. So that's how the choice was made, and the rest is history.
Allegory.
Allegory. That's right.
Allegory.
But you can actually think of the Gita as a cliff notes of the Upanishads. There is nothing in the Gita that is not already in the Upanishads. Yes. So it's plagiarized, or it's cliff notes, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a beautiful verse. They talk about Gita being like the nectar or the essence or the milk, and the Upanishads are like the cows, and Krishna is the cowherd. He milked this beautiful essence from the 108 Upanishads. So that's a nice way of looking at it. But the whole idea is that it is it's a big tent view. And you talked earlier about being punished and the sin and not being maybe so generous. You're not so much in the Hindu view punished for the sin, but punished by the sin. So that's the whole concept.